I would love to invite our panellists up to the stage to talk about some of the ways that they've had their, gone on their advocacy journey and have sought to tackle some of the key issues that they have felt passionate about. So our first speaker is James Liang. James is a third-year Bachelor of Science Advanced Global Challenges student at Monash, passionate about young people driving change. In particular, his work focuses on increasing youth representation in government, supporting the mental health of culturally and linguistically diverse young people, as well as ensuring that young people from low socioeconomic backgrounds are able to fulfil their potential and their dreams. He is a positive change maker at the Centre for Multicultural Youth, was a Create Change Fellow with Democracy in Colour, and has volunteered for many community organisations. Please welcome James. Next we have Drew. Over the last 5 years, Drew Patton has led various roles from program and mentoring, delivery, recruitment, global operations in the US, and is currently the co-chief executive officer at AIM Mentoring. His focus is on building bridges between the most marginalised young people and those who hold power, helping to alleviate educational inequity. An essential passion of Drew's is amplifying youth voice and representation of young people in decision-making in rooms and stages that have not previously done so. Drew Patton is a proud Gunai and Kurnai man from the Gippsland, Victoria region, with ties to Papakura Aotearoa, a key element in his grounding and fuel to keep driving forward. Please welcome Drew. Next we have Fatima Ayub. Fatima is in her third year of a Bachelor of Law and Arts at Monash. She's majoring in linguistics and international relations, minoring in Islamic studies. Her involvement with Banyul Council started in 2016 as a Year 10 student, where she attended the Banyul Youth Summit. She then worked on the Your Banyul campaign, which helps celebrate diversity and encourages unity in Banyul. She also worked with the council on the Made Australia Home project that positively profiled refugees who've settled in our community. Fatima volunteers with UN Youth Australia as a general facilitator. She also works with social not-for-profit consulting organisation 180 Degrees Consulting, and her past projects have been a KPI framework to measure social impact in creating diversity and inclusion policy. In her little spare time, Fatima enjoys writing and performing stand-up comedy. Can we hear a little bit of that tonight? And last we have Saad. Saad has been involved in humanitarian efforts to support his native country of Syria for a number of years. He's worked alongside fellow members of his scout crew to create and deliver aid packages to internally displaced refugees. After fleeing Syria, Saad and his family made Melbourne their home. With no English but plenty of determination, Saad worked his way through the education system to graduate dux of his school and be accepted to study medicine at Melbourne University. Saad has delivered hundreds of speeches to schools and community groups about his experiences, including a stirring TEDx presentation in Canberra. He was awarded the prestigious Messenger of Peace Award by the King of Sweden and has become a strong advocate for the refugee and migrant community in Australia. Please welcome Saad. So you guys are all pretty awesome, but I always like to kick off these kinds of discussions with a question around what's an interesting thing about you that wouldn't come up on your bio? Why don't we start with you, James?
That's a hard one. One thing that wouldn't come up on my bio is I love swimming. I love being in the water, supporting kids swimming. I just started becoming a swim teacher recently, and I'm determined to learn to surf this year, which, definitely wouldn't come up on my bio.
Nice. What about you, Drew?
Everyone hear me? Yeah, all good. So, I can't swim that good, so if you can teach me, great. Great question. I'm really into cars. I love cars a lot, the mechanics of it, and stuff like that. It's not really the prettiest thing in the world, but definitely something of interest.
Yeah, I'm looking to buy my first car, so I'll hit you up.
Hit me.
100%. Probably how much I love my 8-year-old sister. Her name's Mina. She's an angel, and I love it. Yeah.
I think what I like doing outside for like fun is hiking, and there's this one thing, like hiking and camping, so going over day hikes. And I've always wanted to get lost for a long time and like find my way somehow, but I've never like had the courage to get myself
That's
lost.
the start of like 20 horror movie stars. Please, don't do that.
I just would want to like have that, ability to solve my way through if I get lost, but so I don't put that in my bio, definitely.
Well, we're glad you haven't gotten lost and you're here with us today, mate.
No, lost and finding the way, that's the idea.
That's it. Nice. So I wanted to ask you guys about what kind of got you started on your respective journeys. You've all done really great work in quite different areas. Was there a particular person that was influential, or a particular event or something that catalysed your interest and sparked, that fire? Why don't we start with you, James?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think it's really hard to identify one thing that sort of sparked my passion in sort of supporting community and supporting young people. I come from a relatively low socioeconomic background myself. I'm coming from a sort of small community that sort of is very in it of itself and doesn't sort of reach out as much as it probably could. So I was part of a homework program back in school because my parents didn't have as much education as they probably would have wanted, and they couldn't support me in my schooling where other families were. And as I got older, I wanted to sort of give back and support the programs that supported me when I was growing up. And through that, I met lots of people who were doing really awesome things, and that sort of snowballed into me being able to reach out to different communities, reach out to different passions, and make sure that I'm able to make as much impact within the community as I could. That's how I got started.
Amazing.
It's actually quite similar to James's story. My family doesn't come from a place of privilege, or it's not necessarily directly associated with education. In fact, I'm the first person that's gone through education for my family. So for me, it was actually a mentor that came and worked alongside me and assisted me because I needed it and I wanted it. So I needed an extra set of hands to help guide me through, one, this complex education system, but two, just like these complexities within social society, and walking between two lines of being an Indigenous man and also just another young person within school. Like, there were so many confusing points along that journey. So I'm very grateful that I found AIM, who I now work for, and they mentored me for 5 years throughout my schooling. And there's one incredible human in particular, Nada, and to this day she's like a sister to me, and happily hit me over the head if I do anything wrong still. She's been a huge guidance for me, and I'm probably the person that kind of made me realise there's so much more than just me in this scenario. Like, there's my brothers and sisters and other community members that face quite similar, disadvantages or any impacts in life. So Nada was the big one, and will forever be the big one for me. Awesome.
As corny and cheesy as it sounds, my mum, from a really young age, again, sort of similar kind of thing, low socioeconomic background. Mum wasn't incredibly educated in Australia, so she had a need. She had a baby who needed to know how to speak in her native tongue, and Mum made it happen. Mum's always taught me that giving back to your community is super important. So back when I was like 2002, my mum established like a bilingual storytime group back in like Moreland City Council Faulkner Library, and made me like get up and recite Urdu poetry, because that's every normal 2-year-old's dream. And that idea of having to give back to your community because there's a need for something and you have to show up and do the thing. That's what my mum told me from a really young age, and seeing that in her my whole life just cemented that, like, you show up. There's certain needs that your community has, you get up and do them. So that's probably what got me started. Never really knew anything other than that.
For me, I think it has been a journey. So being a scout from young age, the kind of seeds of service was implemented in scouts, and then throughout the war, seeing my role models who were my leaders in scouts, kind of lose their lives, committing to service and committing to humanitarian work. That kind of just kept strengthening my belief and work in humanitarian, and then seeing doctors who risk their life, and they, particularly one neighbor was my friend's dad, and he used to opt in to go to that areas which were getting bombed and which were getting sieged, to kind of help people. So really inspired me, and that's what actually inspired me as well to study and pursue medicine. And when I came here, what got me into advocacy is, I think going on the train and just seeing how everything is quiet, and remembering how the mornings used to be for me and for my friends, and I just wanted to tell their stories and tell the stories of those who died, and as well give people here an idea about how things can be, because I came in Syria from a high middle class family, and before the war I did not appreciate what I had, and then I lost it, and unfortunately I see lots of people who I see myself in them before the war, and it's very important to appreciate what you got, because you would never think how things can change and how you'd lose everything in one day. So I guess that's an answer. And then getting into medicine and studying hard, and the people who helped me along the way kind of inspired me actually to help people. So now every year I volunteer to tutor students for GAMSAT or for interviews, and from disadvantaged backgrounds, and try to help them on the journey that I've taken. So that's the aim for me is to be the same as the doctor who I was working humanitarianly. So I would want to do humanitarian work, and he inspired me to do that. So it has always been a journey, and there's always a trigger that inspires you to take the next step and the next step. So you just need to start on that journey, and it will take you.
That's really powerful, Saad. Thank you, and thank you all of you for sharing your experiences and your stories. Super inspiring. I guess my question would be for some of the young people in the room who really want to make a difference and are really passionate about solving problems, but may not know where to start. What kind of practical advice would you guys give them? Anyone can tackle this.
So can you repeat the question?
So yeah, young people in the room who want to make a difference in their community, but may not be sure where to start or how to go about doing that. What kind of advice would you give some of the young people in the room?
I'll start. I think for me, from my experience, I never I was a bit of an introvert. I never thought that I could make a change. But I think starting from what you know and what you believe in, starting in your school, and it will just you'll just start learning and getting new experiences and meeting people, and opportunities for advocacy will come up, opportunities that you learn from would come up, events like this would come up, and you will learn something new, or you will join something. You don't know where it takes you. So I think it's always making the start from where you're at. What you know, you don't need to do that course, or you don't need to learn this to do what you want. And I think for me, I've just started with my like it came from studying. Like I just studied hard. I was a bit of a nerd, and like I did well in school, and everyone was like, "Wow, he did well in school," and that kind of gave me my pathway to talk more about what I believe in and about what's happening. And since then, I've done over 300 talks. So yeah, like what you're comfortable in, what you know, try to excel in it, and you will just get opportunities.
That's great advice. Yeah. Did anyone else want to add to that?
All said. I think there's this beautiful thing called the gift of time, and that's our ability to not give money or not give physical things, but genuinely give your time to other people, and it's such an incredibly valuable thing. So one of the most powerful things that I've seen and experienced is other people giving time for myself, or giving time for others, and that concept of it's not always about the money figure, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the biggest event in the room either. It could be purely sitting with one person and exchanging time, because it's such a powerful thing. So within the space of time, within the space of an hour, 30 minutes, like it could be that one conversation that completely transform either your day or someone's whole life. So I think really think about your time and how you want to give it. I think if there's opportunities to volunteer in particular, like go for it, because there's some pretty incredible things out there.
I'd like to jump in if that was okay.
Please, yeah.
So I think starting off here is a really great place to start. Then I would recommend making sure that you hone in on what you know, because you know a lot, you know what needs to be done. Figure out what needs to be done, and then figure out who can do it. So if you're in school, you can see that, okay, you're passionate about period poverty in women, with people who have periods. Okay, this is an issue that you want to tackle. You know that people need better access to pads and tampons. How can you make that happen with what you have? Okay, you know that there's a social justice teacher who manages all the fundraisers. Go and ask them. I'm passionate about this. What can be done? The worst they can say is no, or they'll direct you to somebody who can help. So basically, you know what needs to be done. You all have areas of expertise, and that's beautiful. Hone in on that. Figure out what needs to be done. Figure out what you can do to make it happen with the tools that you have. Ask teachers, ask people from your local council, reach out to the people that you see around. They want to help you. Or if they don't, pester them, and they'll find someone who can or wants to. So that would be my advice, like tangible things that you can do. Figure out what you're passionate about and figure out how to make it happen.
Definitely agree. I think you all have a lot of skills, and never underestimate how much you guys can accomplish within the community. One piece of advice that I would like to give is you don't need to ask for permission. I know going through school, you have to ask permission to go to the toilet, to go out, to take a break. You need to ask permission for everything, and that's what sort of school teaches you. And it's important for school. Definitely ask permission in school. But when you're trying to make change, you don't have to wait for someone to give you permission to make change. If you see an issue within the community that you're passionate about, that you think you have the skills, or you know someone who has the skills to help you combat the issue, then you can do it. You don't have to wait for someone to give you the permission in order to make the change that you want to see. And I feel like that's a trap that a lot of young people fall into, where you feel, oh, I don't have the skills, or I'm not old enough to do something. Don't let yourself be the barrier for you to make change. You don't have to wait for someone to give you permission.
That's great advice. I might open it up to the room. Does anyone have any questions for the panelists? Anything they'd like to hone in on, ask, know a bit more about? Don't be shy. Yeah.
Life-changing experience you learn your field of work or something that's changed your whole outlook on everything. Yeah.
So I just wanted to know, like, since you've started, you know, doing your projects and that, what's something you've come across while doing that's changed your life in that way? I don't know how to explain that, but yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Gotcha. Great question. Yeah, I think there was like a tipping point for me, and it was working with this young guy. His name's Ben, and now Ben, he's an incredibly intelligent man, but he lacked the motivation, he lacked the guidance, and yeah, it killed me because like he had all these crazy big dreams and aspirations, but he just didn't want to enact on them. He would push himself that extra limit, just going, yeah, I'm just going to get up and go do it. And it killed me. And it was just like, I just want to throw him into all these opportunities, but he doesn't want to take it. And then so it took me 2 years of working with this young kid. And then it was school holidays, come back to school the next year. And I don't know what happened to him over the school holidays, but he just come back with this crazy energy. And he was just like, yeah, I want to lead. I'm like, oh, okay, I wasn't ready for that, but I'll take it. And yeah, he went from being this troubled kid that was involved with drugs, alcohol, and typically caught up with cops a fair bit, to then leading the cohort of kids within his school, and then wanted to lead cohorts external of his school. So for me, it was just like, man, this one kid can make a huge difference, and he did. And then that rippled into the next cohort of kids that came up. And like, so within the space of the year, I got to see a few generations of kids lead. And it was just like, man, all it takes is one person to get up. That was a tipping point for me.
For me, I think there's two things that I've really learned. So one thing is, so when I came, I went to high school for year 11, year 12. Obviously, I did not speak English well at all. And I've always felt out of place. Being in school, and it was very hard for me as a teenager, and I struggled. So in my speeches, I kind of talk about that, and it's amazing how so many students come and tell me, their stories, and they've told me that they don't feel comfortable, they don't feel that like they fit in, and if I knew that before, that like all of us might feel insecure about something, or might feel, and nobody is actually noticing anything, that would have like gave me so much comfort that, as a teenager, that not everyone's just looking at me and staring at me and think, why is this guy here? And the other thing as well is, I've given one talk in a footy club, and it was after the footy game. There was all those 6'5" players, and they're coming there. I'm like, oh my God, let's see how this goes. And as it went, it really like I had a different, I had a judgment, a prejudgment, and then as I was talking, and some people were even like tearing up, and they've got such experiences that I would not put the experience to the person. So it really has changed my perspective as well, and how I view people. Yeah.
Thanks, Sad. Does anyone else have any questions for the panel? Yeah. How about you? On the left, yep. I think there's a mic coming if you want to.
What setbacks did you face, and how did you overcome them?
It's a good question.
I might jump in. I think it's really natural to have setbacks, and I think everyone, I'm sure, on the panel has had numerous setbacks, whatever you're doing, really. I think one big setback that I really felt was last year during COVID. I was really involved with the Chinese community, supporting young leaders to develop and grow and sort of work with the community. And I think during COVID, a lot of these young people face a lot of racism within the community just because of the colour of their skin, and trying to run programs and supporting young people and trying to get them to engage with community in an environment where lots of communities weren't as supportive of them as they were before was a big setback to me, but also a big setback to their confidence in the ability that they can make change. Yeah, but I think stuff happens. Stuff that you can't control happens a lot of the time, and that may be a personal setback, but don't let small setbacks sort of deter you from making greater change, really. Use it as sort of learning, which is cliche, but try and reflect, see what went wrong, see what you can do in the future to try and mitigate it or try and prevent it. Yeah.
I'd also like to answer that one. Something I've often come across is that in order to create the change that I want to see in the world, I have to operate in really white spaces and really high SES spaces. That's not what I am, if you haven't noticed. So that can be really taxing. And being in a male-dominated space, whatever it is, it can be really taxing on you emotionally. As passionate as you are, it's really exhausting. So I found that I was burning out really quick. As passionate as I was about something, I would give it, and then just that being the brown voice in a room, being the Muslim voice in a room is quite exhausting. So you have to make sure that you balance it. Look after yourself, surround yourself in spaces where you don't have to explain your existence to people, and then come back and do what needs to be done to the capacity that you can, because it's not sustainable to do anything otherwise.
I think for setbacks, I just want to touch on two things. So one is to actually believe in your ability and what you know, rather than hearing what other people tell you about who you are. So for example, when I tried to join school, I was rejected from school because people judged me and they judged my English level, and they just judged my intelligence according to that. So and then when they I found it very difficult to get to school, and when I made it clear that I want to do medicine, some teachers told me you have to be realistic with your dreams, and they told me your English is shit, and you're not going to be able to do medicine. And now I'm second year, and I got accepted into actually 2 medical school, which is and when I went to the teacher and she was crying. So she's not a bad person, but she just that's her judgment of me. But I did not take what she has to say and hold it to I just kept my that's what you have to do. And the second thing is seek help. So I'm just giving a few things from just schooling. Is I was about to drop out in year 12 because I could not keep up with the stress and pressure, and that's when I started actually seeing counseling and seeing a counselor, and that really has helped me, and that kind of changed my life. So if I did not seek help and if I drop out, my life would have changed drastically. That's good. Yeah, so I think it's very important, and don't be ashamed to do so.
I think, sorry, did you want to jump into
Sorry,
it?
just
Yeah,
one
go for it.
The biggest setback for me with being a young person leading is that I've been told time and time again that I'm too young to lead. All I can say is do not listen to them, they're full of shit. Please don't let that sink in, because there is no age on leadership. There is nothing, there's no requirement on you as a young person to lead. It's just you got to step up. So that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, that's a really important message. I think a good one to wrap up on as well. If anyone else had any other questions that we didn't get to, by all means come and chat to the panellists. We're going to break for morning tea in just a second. Come and have a casual chat with them, hear a little bit more about their journeys and their stories. But yeah, if you could all join me in thanking all of the panellists for their time.